In 2016, the Milwaukee Bucks took a gamble. They drafted a 7-foot-tall phenom named Thon Maker with the 10th overall pick.
With the 10th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Thon Maker.
A teenage unicorn, they said. A once-in-a-generation talent. Just 19 years old. Or was he? Because for years, whispers followed Thon's rise. Rumors that he wasn't 19 at all, but 21, 23, even 25. And if those rumors were true, then we may be looking at one of the NBA's greatest unspoken scandals. Let's talk about the NBA star who faked his age and got away with it. Thon Maker's story feels like a movie. Born in war-torn South Sudan, his family fled to Uganda, then Australia. By 14, Thon stood 6 feet 10 inches and was discovered by a talent scout while kicking a soccer ball in Sydney. From there, things took off. He trained under Edward Smith, a controversial guardian and mentor who took him to the US and Canada to boost his exposure. His highlight tapes went viral. A 7-footer pulling up from 3, crossing over defenders. He was compared to Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and even Kevin Garnett, but from the beginning, something was off. Thon was officially listed as born on February 25th, 1997, which made him 19 on draft night in 2016. But there were already red flags. When Australian journalists dug into his past, they uncovered conflicting documents. At one point, a school registration form listed his birth year as 1992, not 1997. That would have made Thon 24 when drafted, not 19. Edward Smith, his mentor, said it was a clerical error, but that's not the only inconsistency. Scouts are trained to see what others miss, and many quietly believed Thon was older than he claimed. His bone structure, his fully developed frame, the way he carried himself. One scout anonymously told a reporter he was mature, not just physically, but emotionally. That wasn't a teenager. Another doubted his upside entirely, saying if he's really 19, he's a project. But if he's 23, this is all you're getting. But here's the thing. No one pushed too hard, because in the world of international basketball, age can be fluid. Faking age isn't new, especially not in international basketball. From Nigeria to Serbia to China, players have been caught altering birth dates to qualify for youth leagues, scholarships, or professional eligibility. In war-torn or impoverished nations, birth certificates are unreliable or don't exist at all. And without a paper trail, it's easy to reinvent yourself. In Africa especially, age fabrication has been called the sport's dirty little secret. Take Serge Ibaka, the former NBA champ. When he arrived from the Congo, doubts immediately surfaced. Even his own teammates privately joked that he was pushing 30 when he said he was 21. Or Hakeem Olajuwon, the Hall of Famer, came to the US from Nigeria in the 1980s with almost no formal records. To this day, some insiders believe his true age may have been off by several years. And these aren't isolated cases. It's a pattern. Here's where it gets tricky. Thon Maker wasn't just a player, he was a marketing dream. A refugee turned star, an international icon, a 7-foot shooter who spoke like a diplomat and played like a future MVP. So, did the NBA really care how old he was? Privately, some execs have admitted that the hype was too valuable to lose. And let's be real. If the league had launched a full investigation and found out he was 25, it would have killed the story and probably hurt ticket sales, endorsements, and international interest. In other words, they might have just let it slide. Thon's NBA career never quite lived up to the hype. In 4 seasons, he averaged under 5 points per game. Flashes of brilliance, but never consistency. Today, he's out of the league, still playing internationally, still training, still only 27 officially. But if he was really 24 at the draft, that makes him over 33 now, and that changes everything. Today, he's out of the league. Some might say, so what? If a guy can play, he can play. Who cares how old he is? But here's why it matters. Player development is built around potential. A 19-year-old with raw talent is a future investment. A 24-year-old with the same skills, a finished product. Age affects contracts, team strategy, endorsement deals, and most importantly, trust. If age can be faked, then scouting becomes guesswork, and the fans, they're sold a fantasy. What's most surprising is the silence. The NBA has never publicly investigated Thon's age. No journalist ever pushed hard enough to break the story, and maybe they never will. Because when it comes to international stars, the league has decided it's better not to know. Thon Maker may be the most famous case, but he's not alone. There are whispers about dozens of players, some still in the league today. As long as international pipelines remain unregulated and teams stay hungry for the next big thing, age will always be negotiable. And every year, another teenage prodigy walks across that draft stage, smiling, waving, maybe 19, maybe not. Here's the catch. Many of the documents journalists need to confirm Thon's true age, they're locked away. Private school records, immigrant registration files, birth documentation, documentation from South Sudan. In countries torn apart by conflict, those records often don't exist or were deliberately destroyed. And in places like Australia and Canada, access is blocked by privacy laws. So even if someone wanted to expose the truth, they probably couldn't. And that's by design. Edward Smith, the man who discovered and mentored Thon, plays a central role. A former basketball player himself, Smith has been involved with multiple international prospects, many of whom had, shall we say, flexible documentation. Critics say Smith was more than a mentor, he was an architect creating pathways for older players to pass as teenagers. He denies all allegations, but his presence in multiple controversial cases raises eyebrows. Was he helping players chase their dreams or helping them rewrite their pasts? In soccer, age testing is common. FIFA often uses MRI scans of wrist bones to verify players under 17. In theory, the NBA could do the same, but the league chooses not to. Why? Because it could open Pandora's box. Imagine scanning a player and finding out your franchise's lottery pick is 5 years older than claimed. It would crater their value and the team's investment. And besides, age tests aren't perfect. Bone growth can vary by genetics, diet, and injury. So in the end, the NBA opts for plausible deniability. No tests, no controversy. In American high school basketball, players have been reclassifying their age for years. Sometimes it's strategic, stay back a grade to dominate and boost recruitment. Other times, it's fraud. Cases have emerged of players in their 20s posing as teenagers to play in youth leagues. In 2022, a 23-year-old was caught posing as a 17-year-old to compete in Texas high school ball. Thon's path through Canadian prep schools fits this murky world. Loosely regulated, privately funded, and often lacking verification. Perfect for reinventing a player's identity. Let's not forget, Thon Maker's early life was marked by war and displacement. His family fled South Sudan, a nation where even basic infrastructure barely exists. In that chaos, birth certificates are often lost or never issued. So the question becomes, was this a fraud or a survival strategy? In many cases, refugees arriving in new countries are assigned approximate birth dates by officials. Thon may not have known his exact age, and even if he did, declaring himself younger meant more opportunity. And who could blame him? Age isn't just a number, it's a business model. Younger players get more attention, longer contracts, and bigger endorsements. If Thon Maker had declared he was 24 instead of 19, he might have gone undrafted. That's millions of dollars lost. So for players from unstable countries, lying about age isn't just a tactic, it's economic survival. And that creates a dangerous incentive. Fake the paperwork, sell the dream, cash the check. The media helped build the Thon Maker myth. Early highlight reels racked up millions of views. 7-foot high school point guard, the headlines screamed. But how many reporters dug deeper? How many asked questions about his age, his school records, or his paperwork? Very few. Because the media doesn't just report hype, it feeds on it. And questioning a feel-good story like Thon's, that's not good for business. By age 24, most players have finished growing. But in Thon's case, there were claims he continued growing into his mid-20s. Supporters say that proves he was younger. Skeptics say it could just be abnormal genetics, or even a side effect of poor nutrition in his youth. Even dental experts and forensic anthropologists have debated his case. The truth is, you can't judge age by eye, but that doesn't stop teams, fans, or media from trying. This isn't just a basketball issue. In baseball, players from the Dominican Republic and Venezuela have been caught lying about their age for decades. In 2000, pitcher Danny Almonte became a national sensation in Little League until it was discovered he was 14, not 12. And in football, especially in youth leagues, the same patterns emerge. The common thread? Desperate environments, limited opportunity, high reward, and a system that encourages bending the rules, if you're talented enough. So, why doesn't the NBA clamp down? Simple. It's not in their interest. Cracking down on age fraud would mean questioning international pipelines, upsetting agents, and possibly invalidating millions in player contracts. Instead, the league quietly relies on plausible deniability. If a player has a passport, a high school diploma, and a signature from a guardian, that's enough. They don't want to know more. And that's the real story here. Not that Thon Maker faked his age, but that the NBA didn't care. Let's flip the narrative. What if Thon really was 19? What if the school records were wrong, the journalist reports exaggerated, and the skeptics mistaken? That means he was just a kid, an actual teenager, thrust into a billion-dollar business, overhyped, and expected to carry a franchise. That would make his story even more tragic. A victim of the hype machine. Overcoached, overexposed, oversold. Sometimes the truth is even more complicated than the conspiracy. Thon Maker will go down as one of the most mysterious figures in modern basketball. A player whose talent sparked a movement, whose age sparked a debate, and whose story exposed a crack crack in the system. Maybe he lied, maybe he didn't. But in a league built on stories, hype, and billion-dollar narratives, truth is often the first casualty. So next time a teenage prodigy walks across that stage, ask yourself, are they really 19? Or is that just what we're told to believe? What do you think? Was Thon Maker older than we thought? Should the NBA take a stronger stance on international player verification? Comment below and let's talk about it.